Alright people, so I was requested by WWE Analyst on Twitter to do 10 changes I would make if I was Obama. So if I was president, I'd probably make more than 10 changes, probably hundreds if not thousands of changes. But here's kind of just some broad topics or broad ways that I would change this country. Number one, I would follow the Constitution. I mean, Obama's displayed, he's shown on numerous fronts that he's not willing to follow the Constitution, whether that's change the law on immigration, go to war without congressional approval, etc. I mean, he disregards Congress. He just doesn't have a regard for the Constitution. I mean, it's fucking just bullshit. So in the Constitution is the law of the land. You take an oath to the Constitution. Therefore, you have to follow the Constitution. Even when it's not convenient, you have to follow the Constitution. Even when you don't want to, you have to. Alright? So, yeah, I would follow the Constitution as every elected official should. Number two, as every elected official should too, I wouldn't lie. Lying should be, in my opinion, an offense that should get you impeached, or at least in a lot of trouble, because if you lie, that shows that, again, you don't have any morals, you don't have any honesty, you don't have it's just like you're just saying to the country, fuck you. So he's lied on numerous fronts as well. I mean, he said he would get us out of Iraq by 2009. Yeah, right. He said you could keep your doctor. He was caught lying about the Gruber, Obamacare situation. He's been caught lying a lot of times. Number three, I would stop funding ISIS. You see, we're funding what we call, the moderate rebels, when we're actually funding ISIS and giving money to ISIS so we can build them up and, now we got this big problem in the Middle East to destabilize the Middle East and to go to war. If you're going to fund anybody in this situation, you should fund the Kurds. Because they're actually, fighting against ISIS. But here's what we're doing. We're fucking, we're saying, Assad, he's bad because he did the chemical weapons attack, when it was actually an MIT study came out and said that he couldn't have possibly done it. So then we blame that on him. It looks like a false flag. And then, we got to get rid of Assad now. When Assad's not the problem. If we get rid of Assad, then ISIS is just going to take over. That's what happened in fucking Iraq, Libya, you name it. I mean, so we're like, they're always saying, we got to destabilize these countries. We got to overthrow these leaders. But when we overthrow somebody like Saddam, it just leads to fucking the terrorists taking over. It's totally retarded. Assad's not the enemy here. It's ISIS, but unfortunately, we are actually helping out ISIS and funding them. So I would not fund ISIS. Number four, I would promote true capitalism. And meaning by true capitalism, as like a business owner, you could, be able to pursue whatever you want. Less taxes, less regulations, more freedom, laissez-faire in the business or in the economy. Like when you have to make a business, you have to go through all these regulations, pay the government to do whatever, business inspections, taxes and everything. It's just a lot of fucking work. I think it should be a lot simpler, a lot less of this bullshit, less taxes, and yeah, I mean, also, like, I don't know if this happens all around the country, but here in Michigan, I hear, like, if you want to change your house or add a new room to your house, you have to get, like, approval from the government. I mean, what the fuck is that? Why do you have to get approval? It's your fucking property. Private property, that's called. So I would be more laissez-faire in the economic sort of view, no minimum wage. You could fire, hire, or serve whomever you want as a business. More, like that. 5, I would legalize drugs. The war on drugs is a total fraud. It just, it's just like alcohol. When you make something illegal, it doesn't get rid of it. It just makes criminals more powerful and creates more crime. Now, I'm totally against myself doing drugs or getting drunk or shit like that. But I believe you have the right to do that, and you have a right to your own body and to put into your body whatever the hell you want. If you want to go get high, well then go get high. I mean, again, I don't support that, but if you want to do that and fuck up your life, that's your choice. 10 years after Portugal decriminalized, I believe it was all drugs, they experienced a 50% drop in drug use, actually, which goes against, what those, like mostly Republicans say, oh, we have to, make all drugs illegal because if we didn't, more people would smoke them. Totally not true, because in Portugal, again, it dropped by 50% after they decriminalized it. Haha, so totally just a fraud right there. Like, you can't put people in jail and expect them to, to stop drugs, stop doing drugs. The real way to stop people from doing drugs is by promoting a good, society, actually encouraging people to go to counseling or treatment if they do get on drugs. But in the first place, if we actually have, a good society, good morals, good values, a good families, like a lot of the people on drugs, I think, are people who, don't necessarily have a good family and are not surrounded by good parents or good people. So I think if we promote good values, it would drastically help this big drug culture. And if we stop promoting drug use and all these horrible things like they're the greatest thing on earth, I think we would also have a much lower drug usage rate. Number 6, I would make abortion illegal. Just because it's not born yet, just because a child is not born yet, I don't think it's, right to kill him, her, whatever. I think that's murder, in my opinion. And that's why, some people know you got to go through Congress to get it. I don't think you have to go through Congress even to get this, because the point of an executive order is to reestablish, laws or help to enforce laws. So I think that, as I said, abortion is murder, because just because a child is not born yet does not mean it's not a person, in my opinion. I think it's still a child, even if it hasn't come out of the womb yet. It's like saying you wouldn't kill a child a week after it's born. I mean, so what's the difference? I think it has a right to life, so I think, therefore, killing it is murder. So therefore, I think it would be lawful to make an executive order banning abortions. I think the only way you could really make a case for having an abortion is if the mother's life is at risk, because then you could argue, the mother has a right to life as well. But yeah, I think abortion is wrong. I think it's, elite. Not that it's wrong. I mean, I think a lot of things are wrong, but they should be legal. I think it's killing an unborn child, which is, just because it's unborn does not mean it's right to do so. Number 7, I would get rid of things like Social Security and welfare. Now, some people might say, oh, you don't care about, poor people or people who have, disabilities. Yes, I do care about them. But when the government gets, this is what I say a lot of times on my channel, it's kind of one of my mottos, I guess. When the government gets involved in something, it just fucks it up. So what I would do, and if you have a good economy, if you have a society with good values and good people, you would have a ton of money donated to charities, churches, so then they could help fund Social Security and welfare, and they could take it over, because when charities do it, it's actually done right. When government does it, it's just turned into a bunch of bullshit. It makes people dependent on government, and that's one of the also negative things of Social Security and welfare. It makes people dependent, and it takes away the motivation to actually do work and to be successful in life. So I would get rid of those things and let people do what the fuck they want with their own money and shit like that. Because with Social Security, it's really taking my money and then saying, oh, we're going to give it back to you when you're older. Well, that just creates more money that has to be, like the government has to pay for people to do this. They have to pay for the Social Security, for people to run the whole program. So it just is taking away people's money, actually. If you just let people do what they want with their money and invest their money with however they want, then we wouldn't, we would save money, actually. So Social Security's, I think, a bunch of bullshit. Welfare is a bunch of bullshit. Let the fucking private sector run all this shit. 8, I would get rid of departments like, just useless departments and agencies like the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, or I would at least make them smaller. Department of Education and shit like that. When the government first started, I believe it only had like 50 employees. Now it has like 2 point some million. I mean, the government should play a very small role. I think the federal government. I think the government should do shit like make the roads, protect our rights, against crime and criminals, protect against foreign invaders, and I mean that's about it really. The government does not need to be involved in every single part of their life. They don't need to be involved in the economy that much. They don't need to be involved in every single aspect of our lives. As I said, the private sector usually does a much better job of running shit than the government. So let them run. Let the private sector do all this shit. And like the EPA, I mean, like all these fucking agencies get like billions of dollars or budgets billions of dollars. I mean, should the environment be a concern? Should we work to protect the environment? Yeah, I think we should. But should we be spending like a bunch of billions of dollars? I mean, is that really necessary? I don't think so. Like if somebody's fucking, just pouring a bunch of waste into a lake, I mean, yeah, we should go after that person, but I don't think it should cost billions of dollars to do all this shit. I think this could be, I think government could run much more efficiently, a lot less agencies with a lot less money. 9, I wouldn't get into all these wars. I mean, most of these wars are done, they actually lie about shit to convince the public to get into it. I mean, that's been done with World War One, World War Two, Vietnam, Iraq, weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, I mean, that was really truthful. So, I mean, a lot of these wars are just fought for the military-industrial complex, like companies like Halliburton, who get no-bid contracts for Iraq. So, yeah, I mean, war is a lot of people, we got to go to war, and it makes them all patriotic, but they don't realize that, all these wars are useless, and they're just used, again, to, take away our civil liberties and also for the military-industrial complex, because they say, they're keeping us safe over there, they're protecting our freedoms over there in Iraq, when actually back home, all our freedoms are being taken away by the corrupt politicians. So they're not really protecting our freedoms. War takes away our freedoms usually when there's a war. The terrorists, we gotta, sexually assault you at the TSA, the NSA's gotta look at all our phone records, even though it's unconstitutional. 10, and lastly, I would close the borders, and I would not legalize illegals. You might say, you don't care about other people. No, like if people want to come in here, I'm all for that, but just do it legally. And I don't think we should be accepting, violent criminals and people like that. I think there should be some standards to get in here. I think we should be watching against diseases, because if some foreign disease gets in here that could be very harmful to our society. So I think that there should be a screening to make sure that you're all right and that you could get in here, without posing a significant problem to our society, people in our society, because I don't want us taking in violent criminals or, shit like that. And yeah, I think we should close the borders, but at the same time, I don't think it should be too difficult to get into this country. Now, I don't know what the requirements are to get into this country, but I think that, if like the average person wants to get into this country, I think they should be able to, as long as they haven't done anything wrong. Now, if it becomes a problem where we have like too many people in this country, I think that's the point where you have to say, okay, now we're only going to let the really skilled people in this country, because you don't want fucking like 3 billion people in America. But I think like there's a lot of room for growth here in this country. There's a lot of undeveloped land. I mean, I think like I drive through. If you go outside, I live in Metro Detroit. If you drive outside Metro Detroit, there's a lot of area that's just nothing, just forest. So I think that there's a lot of potential room for growth here. But I do think that we should close the borders. And for people who got here illegally, that does not mean we should say, okay, it's legal. No, I mean you wouldn't say, oh, everybody who's committed a violent crime, you're legal now. No, you can't do that, especially by executive order. You can't do that by executive order. I mean, I guess you could do it by Congress passing it, but you can't do it by executive order. I'm not sure about the legality of that. If you committed a crime when it was illegal and then they made it legal, I'm not sure. But I know you can't do it by the president doing it by himself. That's unconstitutional. But again, I would make it fairly easy to get in here. But I would not just open the borders and say, oh, everybody who can come in, come in. I think that might pose a very big problem to our country. But there you go, people. There are my thoughts on, or there's my 10 things I would do if I was President Obama. So there you go, people.